welcome to Mature Living, and I am Michelle Salinas, and today we have a special guest by the name of Jim Murphy. Jim is the development coordinator for the El Paso Museum of History, and he is here to give us some big, huge news. Tell us, Jim.
It's gigantic. This past week, City Council approved the naming opportunity for the pavilion that covers the digital wall on the outside of the Museum of History. The Hunt Family Foundation is awarding us $500,000 that we have to match 2-for-1 over the next 5 years.
Okay.
So that's huge for the museum's foundation. These will be restricted funds that can only be used for programming at the museum, which we've always been searching for an endowment, a way to begin our endowment, and it's finally happened. So with this funding, now the other galleries inside the museum, there's 5 more galleries in there. We're hoping that this is a stepping stone to name all of these other galleries.
And how are you going to raise this money?
We'll be sitting down with people just like we're sitting down with you, and taking them on a tour of the museum, and encouraging them to follow suit and to help us, because right now the foundation probably has $150,000 in the endowment. So this is just big for the museum. This will be able to hire extra personnel. We'll be able to do all kinds of special programming. It's going to be a beautiful thing.
And so you're currently looking for sponsors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, you could call them sponsors. And so, in other words, anyone, if you were to walk into the gallery and you like the Museum of History store, you can now name that store after your family, after your business.
Really?
Yes. So any of the
wonderful.
suites in the Museum of History or any of the galleries are open for naming.
Really? And so what is the starting? Like a family comes in and says, I'd like to name, one of the suites. How much do they have to
It goes from $25,000 to $250,000.
Okay.
If you want one of our galleries named after you, it's $250,000. But every exhibit that goes into that gallery will always be referred to. Like the Hunt Family Pavilion, that's what this pavilion is always going to be called now.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And so tell me what happened this past, on the 21st, on Saturday.
This past weekend, the foundation, our foundation, hosted Polo Real 2016. So it was a great event, 500 attendees. We were out in Anthony, Texas, on a Santa Maria polo field, and it was just a great afternoon.
Oh, nice.
And so tables were sold, a lot of people were there, and then we raised money at the event toward this $500,000. So that's our first step in matching that.
That is. So 5 years.
We have 5 years.
If
we don't make it in 5 years, then there's a little bit of leeway there, but our goal is certainly to meet it in 5 years.
Okay. Talk to me about May 7th. What happened on May 7th?
May 7th, we opened up a new exhibit honoring the Women's Club of El Paso. They've been around since 1894. Their building, their facility is 100 years old this time, and it's it is, I believe, the first facility in the United States that was specifically built for a women's club.
Wow.
So they raised the money for that 100 years ago, and they're still raising money. And so we opened up a first floor. It's called the Circle of Giants, who hosts this small exhibit space on the second floor. It was 1,100 square feet. This time we moved it down to the first floor, and it's in a 2,500 square foot gallery. And it's just beautiful. We hired an exhibit team, Between Design, a local exhibit company here in El Paso, to come in and design this gallery, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful space, one of our best achievements so far.
Awesome.
And there's a book in there that people can sign and say what women in your life have inspired you. So you can leave a note.
I want to sign that book.
It's very touching.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Museum visitorship rose.
Right.
What is that?
Well, since we've had the digital wall, which is the only one in the United States, we were just talking about that.
The only one, do you hear that?
The only one in the United States, that's incredible.
It's so
it's
incredible.
35 feet long, 5 feet high, and you use it like your phone. You just move your finger across these giant screens,
awesome.
and there's over 10,000 photos from El Paso in this wall. So It opened up in February. Our visitorship prior to that annually was 35,000. In the 1 year that the digital walls opened, 107,000 people have visited the museum.
Really?
So that's a pretty crowning achievement right there.
I agree. I completely agree.
High technology, so
Wow.
the kids love it, and so do adults.
Giant monitors touched more than 20,
Right.
is that million?
Every time, 20 million, every time somebody touches the digital wall, because you can, if you move your finger down, it's in 3D. So it's loaded with images. It's like you're looking in real life. So you move your finger down the screen and all the images from the back come forward. Every time somebody touches the wall, a company in New Zealand tracks that. So it's been touched, our wall has been touched over 20 million times.
Goodness. And can it be touched by multiple people at the same time?
Yep, there's
or?
5 screens, so they can all manipulate differently.
That
And
is
right
so
now,
great.
the wall in Copenhagen, the Copenhagen digital wall, it's the first one in the world. Their wall is being shown on one of our monitors, and our wall is being shown on one of their monitors. So it's a real cultural exchange.
That is something else.
I think it's great.
So if someone, our audience, our community wanted to help, they wanted to name, something, one of the what did you call them?
Galleries.
One of the galleries after their families, or they wanted to donate money, or they wanted to sponsor, how do they get a hold of you?
You can call me at 212-3161.
Okay.
212-3161, that's my direct line.
Okay.
You can, of course, we have our website. It's elpasotexas.gov/history.
Okay.
There's all kinds of contact information in there.
Okay.
We have a Facebook page. We have.
Oh, you do also, and that's under El Paso Museum of History?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I was using my noggin today. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us?
Well, we're making great strides.
Dates coming up?
Not necessarily dates, but we're moving forward at a nice pace. I think in the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot of great changes at the Museum of History.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm so excited. So is that wall, that digital wall, it's always there? So when we go and we visit, it's
there 7 days a week.
Okay.
It's open when the museum is open.
Okay, maybe I can go after
We're
this.
closed on Mondays, but the digital wall is still open.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's time to...
It's very family friendly, and people
Good.
actually spend an hour or 2 or 30 minutes at this wall. People bring their girlfriends and boyfriends and they stand there. You can take a picture at the digital wall of you and your guests and email that picture to anyone in the world.
No.
Yeah, you can take a little film of yourself and email that off to anybody.
Oh my goodness, that is so great.
It's a lot of fun.
Maybe I'll go there.
And plus we have a
Afterwards.
mini digital wall that we take around to libraries and schools and things like that. A single screen.
And how is that? I mean, it's you just
It's
carefully...
one giant screen that we transport there and hook it up to the internet, so the same information that is at the museum wall is at the school or wherever it is. Yeah.
And New Zealand is monitoring that one too?
Oh,
So
yeah.
they know how many people have touched that screen
Yeah,
as well.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate it. Thank
I
you.
learned so much, and looks like I got to start putting some money away. Thank
Stop
you,
by and see
Jim.
us.
Okay,
Thank you.
I will. Thank you. Come on back after the break. Welcome back. You're watching Mature Living, and we are, this is our second guest. This is John Martin. The topic that we're going to be discussing today is treatment first and housing first, ending homelessness in El Paso. And so what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to hand it over to you, and you're going to tell us what you do, what your title is, and tell us a little bit about this topic.
Well, my name is John Martin. I'm with the Fund Development Team at the Opportunity Center for the Homeless.
Okay.
And many folks don't realize that the Opportunity Center is one of the largest providers of service to the homeless. In fact, we serve anywhere from about 300 to 350 individuals a day. Wow. As we work through that. And when we talk about treatment methods, which I hate to use the word treatment because you have to recognize these are people that we're working with.
I agree.
But our community as a whole, not just the Opportunity Center, but several other providers, are going through a transition, and it's one that the Department of Housing and Urban Development have adopted back in 2010, 2011, and it's called Housing First.
Okay.
Housing First is different from Treatment First, and a very easy way of oversimplifying it is that, okay, we'll talk about housing, but let's get you sober first. And that would be an example of a Treatment First option. Whereas Housing First, they'll say, okay, well, let's get you a place to live, and then we'll work on the sobriety at that point. Because studies across the nation in different communities have indicated that the success rates are much higher if somebody feels safe, comfortable, and is in a place to call their own house.
Right. I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
And so what's happening here is that a lot of the funding that we rely on, okay, is taking into account that shift, or what we refer to as a paradigm shift. But we do have some barriers within our community. For example, the lack of affordable housing.
Right.
You have to have a place to put the individual for us to be able to work the program in the manner that it's being done. And so we need to increase the level of community investment. Now, by that, I'm not simply talking about dollars. Dollars are important. But when I say community investment, recognition at the city and the county level of what needs to be done as a community. What can we do to increase the amount of housing that we have and make that more available throughout? How does the business community tap into this from the standpoint of whether it's education or employment? Because the whole intent is to be able to provide these services and wrap them around the individual under the Housing First model while they're in a safe, comfortable location.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think because people try and do it backwards.
They do it backwards, but that's at no fault. That was the way that it was done. I mean, times have changed at this point. Now, there are some exceptions to that. It's recognized that if you have a victim of domestic violence or a victim of human trafficking or a veteran or a substance abuse related issue, that a different alternative or a different option would be a better way of saying that, of treatment would be, say, transitional housing. And that's more of a treatment first approach. But they are saying that there are those, a vast majority of those that are chronically homeless, that could make this model work. And so one of my hopes today is to sort of start the ball rolling to get people thinking about what they can do. Okay, how does their particular skill or area of expertise fit into this picture so that we can engage the community more and then get them as active partners as we look at ending homelessness.
Okay.
Because HUD has basically established several goals. One of those goals that we're currently working on is to end veteran homelessness within our community. The next one is to end chronic homelessness. Now, by definition, that means an individual is homeless and has been diagnosed with a mental illness.
Right. So it's not going to end. I mean, they need to be treated and helped.
Correct. And then we're going to work with regard to families and youth. These are timelines that have been established nationally. But right now, our community is not in a position to tackle those because we've got to get the community more involved.
And so when you say get the community more involved, what do you need from us?
Well, let's look at your social service providers first.
Okay.
Okay. We all tend to be very fragmented in our approach. We may have a common goal or a common mission as far as the individual that's concerned, but we're not working well together in partnership so that we can avoid duplication or replication across the board. And to a certain extent, that's inherent within our funding system. Okay?
I agree.
I mean, we all go out and actively pursue grants or we pursue fundraising events.
Right.
But should we be doing that more collectively so that we look at more of a systemic impact as a community? Those service providers need support, both financially and in the form of volunteer time as well as in kind. So how can the business community get more involved to defray those costs? Okay, what level of investment needs to be made at the city level? And then at the county level, and then you can take it to the state at that point. But it all starts as more of a grassroots movement, which is sort of a recognition of what needs to be done. And okay, so then let's develop a strategic plan, and then let's put the pieces into play.
Right.
Sort of like playing a game of chess. You're going to start these pieces moving in different directions, and sometimes that piece may be taken away from you, but you haven't lost the game at that point, or the battle.
Right. Well, you know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, as
Correct.
long as you stay on track and you follow those steps.
We definitely do. And so get more involved, get educated as it relates to those that are homeless. And really one of the things that I'd like to do is to adopt a term that is very common within UTEP in the Department of Social Work, because we work very closely with many of their professors. There's a stigma related to the word homeless. And if you combine that with addiction, whether it be alcoholism or substance abuse, so then they're automatically got that stigma that's attached to them. The use of the word home free in lieu of the word homeless.
Yeah. Sounds so
Okay.
much better.
And it's not this, it does sound a little bit better, but it just sort of eliminates that stigma altogether.
Yeah. And they deserve everything that everyone else has.
They do. And when you look at their individual stories, and every story is different across the board. One that I just recently told was, we have a woman in her 70s. She was dropped off at our doorstep by her family because they couldn't care for her anymore. Okay. She's not here in the United States legally, so her options are limited as to what kind of services that she can to support herself.
Right.
Those are the individuals that we're serving from all ages, from the 70s to the 20s. And we do have individuals that we recognize that they will be spending their last days with us because their options are so limited. So in addition to housing first, we also have to make sure that we have an adequate safety net in place.
That's right.
And that safety net is a very common term. What do you do with those that have been recently evicted? You have to have a place for them to stay until you can work through those issues, those barriers, whether they be real or perceived, and get to that final point. And these are incredible folks. They truly are. And I would entertain, I'd ask anybody just to carry on a conversation, just a simple hello, a recognition that they're people.
So the community wants to help. They want to be more involved. They want to help. How do they get a hold of you?
I would ask them just to give me a call directly.
Okay.
And that's at the Opportunity Center for the Homeless. And
Okay.
the main number there is area code 915-577-0069.
Okay.
And I'm at extension 272 or 272.
Okay.
They're more than welcome to call me. I'll be glad to talk to them, whether they be individuals or as representatives of the groups. But we need to get people more involved. We
Great.
truly do.
Great. So let's help our homeless become home free. Right? Thank you so much for joining us, John.
Well, thank you very much.
so
It was a
much.
pleasure.
Come on back. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the topic weatherization and how to save energy in your home. And joining us today is Laura Ponce from Project Bravo, and she's going to break that whole thing down for us and tell us how that works.
Certainly. Weatherization is the science of making your home more energy efficient.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of things that you can do in your home that help it to keep the heat in the winter and keep the cold in the summer,
Okay.
and keep out the heat and the cold whenever you don't want to. And so weatherization is a program that we receive funding from the state to do things to the home that makes it better. So for example, we can insulate the home in the attic and the walls. We can weather strip the doors. We can seal up areas where there's air infiltration. We can replace some appliances if they're not energy efficient. And so every house is different, and every house gets the weatherization measures that it needs.
Okay. Okay, so and tell me how people qualify for the program.
Sure. So this is a program for people that are low income.
Okay.
And priority is given to families that have somebody who's vulnerable in their home and who have very high energy bills. So if there's a person that's age 65 or older, a child under age 5, or a person with disabilities, they get a certain number of points for that. And then if they have high energy bills, then they get a certain number of points. And then people come in and apply, and depending on how many points will determine when they will get service.
Okay.
So if the family has very low priority points, they may wait 6 months to a year to receive services. But if they have a lot of priority points, they may get service within 1 or 2 months.
And is there information provided, like, say, for example, there's like so many, let's say, for example, they need to know, how do I raise my points? Is there a list?
No, really, the points, you have them or you don't have them.
Okay.
So in other words, you either have somebody in your home who's disabled or you don't.
Okay.
Because really the program is to help those families with, you know, that have a vulnerable population that may have trouble with the heat first before anybody else.
And they go into you and then they find out about the program.
Sure.
Does somebody go in and assess?
Yes, the way that the program works is that the family will come in, the head of the household will come in and apply for the services.
Okay.
So typically most people, when they apply for the service, they'll come in for utility assistance and say, by the way, I'm interested in the weatherization program. So we take all the information that we need, we send it to the weatherization program. The points are assigned once they're there, and so the weatherization program, they'll be looking at houses, and finally when the points come up for that particular group, then they'll make a phone call to the family. When they call the family, they'll make an appointment to go and assess the house.
Okay.
So then they go into the house and they do all sorts of things to figure out what's going on in the house and what can be done to make it more energy efficient. So things that they'll do is they'll put a blower door, which is this contraption that creates a negative energy, and it tells us if there's areas where there's holes in the walls or
Really?
Air infiltration near the windows or the doors. So that's one thing we do. We also go up into the attic and see how much insulation is up there. We drill holes in the wall and see if there's insulation in the walls. We measure the refrigerator. If it's built past a certain date, we don't, because we know it's energy efficient. But if it's an old refrigerator, we'll measure it out and see if it's not energy efficient. And then all that information is taken back to the office. We put it in a computer program, and then it'll tell us what we can do and what we can't do. And so what we can do depends on the cost. There's a limit to how much we can spend per house. And then we will only do things that the amount that we pay for it, that amount will be recouped within 5 years in energy savings.
Okay.
So for example, something that we do very often is insulation, because it costs very little compared to the amount of savings that the family will realize from doing that. We never do windows, because if any windows, those energy efficient windows, they're very expensive. And it would take about 100 years to recoup the amount of money you invest in an energy efficient window, in the energy savings you get for that.
Oh my goodness. So once they qualify, and whatever you can fix and for them, they're not paying anything for it.
No,
it's just coming
this program
out
is free.
Okay.
Because it's only for low-income people. But also this program can only be used once every 20 years.
Oh, once every 20 years.
So there are people out there that they received weatherization in the past from, for example, the city of El Paso. They would not qualify. There's a master list that shows us who's received weatherization and who hasn't. So even if we haven't done the work, we'll know that they had weatherization done to their home.
Because the other resources out there are all communicating with each other.
Yes, because the funding comes from one place, and they give it to different agencies. And so back about 5 years ago, there was stimulus funding, so some money was given to the city, and some money was given to us. And so we're not allowed to weatherize a home that's already been weatherized.
Okay. So how do people apply for the services? What do they?
They need to call Project Bravo 562-4100 and 562-4100,
Okay.
and then find out if they're accepting applications. And if they are, pick up an application, fill it out, make sure that it's complete, make sure that all the documentation is there, because it's very limited funding, and so we may only have a window of a couple of days that you can pick up your application and turn it in.
And if they don't, let's say for example, it's somebody who is unable to get in there, Is there another way besides just calling in? Can they go to our
Sure.
website or to
Yes, they can-
email or something?
They can go to our website, www.projectbravo.org,
Okay.
and download the application and mail it in.
Oh, okay. Okay. All
And then right now we are accepting applications for the weatherization program,
Okay.
but once we receive a certain number of applications, we'll close the application process down and people have to leave their phone number.
Okay.
And then we'll call them back once the application process opens up again.
Yeah. So you can only take so many, and then because the money runs out, obviously.
Yes, we budget. So
Yeah.
we try to budget so that the money lasts through the whole year.
Okay.
And so that means that, once we've hit that certain point in our budget, we stop taking applications, we serve the people in the pipeline, and then we open it up if we have some money left over.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I learned a lot.
Sure.
And I'm sure I'm going to learn more because I'll be calling, have some people to refer to you. But once again, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us on Mature Living. And please come back and see us and have a fabulous day.